Welcome back to Occult Perspectives. Your host, Tyler Smith here. What I do on this channel is I break down different esoteric research subjects such as Freemasonry, ceremonial magic, the Tree of Life, and Kabbalah, and much, much more. Also, if you want to go and check out my Patreon, I will share the link to that in the description. It is only $5 a month, and you get access to an audiobook of my book, Freemasonry and Ceremonial Magic, and you also get an instructional video of the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. So let's go ahead and get into this next video. This is my second video I'm doing today. This is going to be about general discussion on Freemasonry and the Kabbalah in general, the Tree of Life, kind of what the different spheres represent in personal spiritual development, and talking a little bit about what Freemasonry is as a whole. So we've talked a lot about both of those subjects on this channel, Freemasonry and the Tree of Life, or Kabbalah. And essentially what it is it's a self-development system designed to further integrate the self so that it can get in alignment with Source. And in doing so, you become Source manifest in the physical world. So you are able to, through your thoughts, words, and actions, help recreate the Temple of Solomon or the Celestial Temple here on Earth. Bring in a new era of spiritual understanding and consciousness to do the great work should be the ultimate goal of any Mason or Kabbalist, to the best that each of them are capable of doing. So I know every person has different traditions, different deities they might work with, whatever. So, but at the end of the day, to know thyself and to be able to be a catalyst in this world for positive change, for evolution and soul growth. So I was initiated in Masonry back in 2014, and I went through my first 3 degrees. Now those are the 3 main degrees of Freemasonry. So if we're looking at this Tree of Life, the Entered Apprentice degree is more correlated with the earth and early life, like childhood life. And then as you become a fellow craft, you're probably working with more the middle of the Tree of Life. Remember, those who actually initiate through the Tree of Life in the Kabbalistic system, it's not the same as a lot of people think Masons are actually using the Tree of Life literally, but it's more of a lot of Masons don't even really know about the Tree of Life. But the Tree of Life exists within us. We are the Tree of Life. It's also shaped like the DNA as well. And these spheres, they don't only represent different spheres of existence or different energies, but they also represent different aspects of ourselves as well. We all have the different spheres of the Tree of Life within us. If you're working with a particular sphere, you're going to be pulling from the influence of that sphere to be more prevalent in your life, so that you'll have physical manifestations which help you to graduate, quote unquote, graduate from each degree. But in the main Masonic degree system, it's just the first 3 degrees. We're not really going to get into Scottish Rite or York Rite. Those degrees, I am going to get to the symbology of those degrees in my book, Freemasonry and Ceremonial Magic. I have talked a little bit about the 4th degree in the Scottish Rite on a different video on my YouTube channel. So go ahead and look up the video Scottish Rite Freemasonry, part 1, and I talk about that a lot in that video. And the Scottish Rite degrees, that might be something we can get into a little bit on this channel. Perhaps I could do some videos, but I prefer to start with the basics, and then tier 2 of my Patreon will be where I actually share the chapters from that part of my book. So like the 4th degree of York Rite, the Mark Master Mason degree, I have worked on the chapter for that. I'd have to go back through and edit it, but that would be part of the $10 tier on my Patreon. If you were if you were interested in learning a little bit more about the story and the symbolism of the degree, of course, I don't go into any ritual details, so no actual lodge secrets. I don't talk about that stuff. But as far as like the allegory and the story, you can find, tidbits of that stuff in Masonic literature. And kind of what I do is, with my own knowledge and what I've read from books, I'm able to pull together a lot of information. And I talk about the stories of the degrees and how they can relate to ceremonial magic and what some of the magical implications of those degrees are. So taking it from a very scholarly perspective is what I do in my book, and how the whole magical spirit of Freemasonry is manifested within those degrees, viewing them from more of an occult or esoteric lens rather than just a practical lens, but also giving practical advice as well. So that's kind of what I do with my book, Freemasonry and Ceremonial Magic. It's just kind of an outline of the degrees and what some of their symbols are and what they mean, and how the story of Hiram Abiff is talked about a little bit more and furthered. So more just the lore or the story aspect, and not the actual ritual specifics, which is not something I'm ever really going to discuss. So this tree of life, if we look at the 3 degrees of Freemasonry as the soul traversing through young childhood, manhood, and then an age as Master Masons, the whole idea is through the Master Mason degree, in the Fellowcraft degree, you learn a little bit more about the arts and sciences. You start learning about the intellect. So the Entered Apprentice degree is about like the physicality of the soul, or more the physical or societal components. The Fellowcraft is more intellectual. And then the Master Mason degree deals with the more higher ideals. It's the more spiritual. And some say that the all-seeing eye of Masonry, or the real God, quote-unquote God of Freemasonry, the most esoteric understanding would be it's the supernal triad of Kether, Hokmah, and Bina. This is the all-seeing eye. This would be the supreme architect of the universe. And then the more primordial layers of the cosmos or existence, you have to do deeper studying and integration to understand those aspects as well. But overall, that kind of gives you, through the 3-degree system, consciously you will be working with different aspects of the self. And they talk about the 7 planets a lot in different Masonic books. So Albert Pike, you'll hear about the 7 planets or the 7 spheres that the soul must progress through to get to heaven, or to get to the clouded canopy, starry decked heaven. Start getting into some of the Raziel zodiac energy. Makes me think of that a lot. So yeah, this whole system, it is the universe, and you're working with universal principles, starting to understand them. This left-hand pillar, which actually would be, if you're facing the tree from the front, you would actually want, the way that I work with the tree of life is the pillar of mercy, or Jakin or Yakin, would be the left brain hemisphere. So I'm seeing the white pillar, if I'm looking at it from my point of view, it's on the left. And then Boaz, or the pillar of severity, is on the right. Corresponds with the right brain hemisphere. But these 2 pillars, the whole key is to, you work from the ground floor of King Solomon's temple. You get your foundation here in the Entered Apprentice degree. Then you work on the higher ideals, and then you work on the lessons of resurrection, immortality, and how to, as a Master Mason, the ultimate lesson is that you understand mortality. The mortality, you come to a deeper understanding of the mortality of the physical body, but you come to, in that, in learning that or understanding that, you also come to a higher intuition or connection with your higher self, your immortal self. So when you go through like a symbolic death or something like that in a ceremonial form, it's symbolic of you resurrecting in this lifetime. So you're not supposed to wait for death. You're supposed to have a resurrection of self now in this present form so that you can channel more of that divine essence into your life and allow that to flow out into the world. So, pillar of mercy, the masculine pillar, which often has, you've got like mercy, it's the forgiving side, it's the light side, quote unquote, and then the female has like severity. And it's interesting that Hod is actually the intellectual sphere on the tree of life, so you would think that would be more equated with the masculine, while Netzach, which deals with emotions, might be the more feminine. But that's kind of the key to this whole tree, is the feminine exists within the masculine and the masculine exists within the feminine. It is the yin to the yang, the positive and the negative polarity. And these are like battery. Think of like these are like the ends of the battery, the different poles, and then you have the unification or the reconciliation of forces here in the middle path. So when you're doing like the middle pillar ritual, you vibrate Ehe Ye and then Yod He Vav He Elohim with Da'at, Yod He Vav He Eloav Da'at at the chest with Raphael, and then you work your way down the sacral chakra type area with the foundation, and then Malkuth, Adonai Ha'aretz. So you have these balancing, always these constantly balancing out of forces. If there's too much on one side or there's too much on the other, the whole thing falls down. So you have to build the strong foundation, and then you are the dot in the middle of the circle, the sun. You are the sun, and you come to a deeper realization of that through, ritual and ceremony. And then you are like the center of the universe, experiencing it from that point. But in understanding that and all these different influences that you're going to experience in life, you can better learn how to utilize the energies, kind of bring them into a balance, reconcile them, and then your external reality should bring forth more order and more understanding, more peace. You should be able to have a little bit more control over your personal reality, at least. And then in this way, you can go forth as like a shining example, of what should be done in this reality. You can start working on your higher aspirations. You start coming into more contact with your soul. Rather than working through only an earthly or material lens, you're able to have, it's graduating from the ground floor. Malkut, physical existence. Yesod is foundation, but it also works with the astral plane and a lot with dreams and things of this nature. And as you work your way up, you start to work with the higher intellect and Hod. The old gods are very much a part of the sphere. So like Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, that type of energy resonates with this sphere. And then Netzach is the balancing energy, which is actually the emotions. But it's not just, this sphere, obviously, it's not called just emotion, it's called victory. So it's the victory over, learning to control the emotions. Not that you're cutting out the emotions or you're not allowing to feel emotions, it's that you have a better mastery over your emotions. And you can actually properly integrate, and in that way you come out on top. So you have splendor or glory on this side, and then you have victory with Netzach. So these two, if you reconcile the forces, are able to bring you to a higher level of consciousness, which comes from Tepareth, which is that solar consciousness. It's that Christ consciousness. It's that understanding to the interconnectedness. You understand the interconnectedness of all things on the tree of life. And then moving into some of these higher spheres, Gebura deals with kind of the more severe side of deity, or the cutting away or the separating aspect of divinity, which is very important, because if nothing had separation or independence or its own independent existence, that's how deity or the source comes to know itself on a deeper level, is through actually this separating principle. And we've talked about Gebura in detail in some of the, if you've ever checked out the Devil Satan playlist that I have, and how Gebura actually led to an imbalance in Gebura, actually led to the breaking down of the tree of life in the beginning. Very interesting stuff. That's a whole other subject I'm not really going to get into in this video. But moving from this kind of harsher, chaotic energy to mercy, this is like the loving energy of God. It's the abundance. It's the loving energy of the Father, you know, the giving. Jesus is said to often be associated with the Jupiter energy as well. Something about the Jupiter symbol being on the tomb of Jesus or something like that. I've heard different correlations, but yeah, this is the mercy, bountiful energy, kind of balancing out the severe energy. Now this is the abyss. They talk about crossing the abyss. There are different veils to cross on the tree of life, but eventually you cross the abyss, and that's where you have like the whole ego death and all of that, which is really where you come into the universal mind. You're realizing that it's not just you know, just a physical being. You are able to have access to this higher knowledge, this higher understanding, which really goes beyond the physical world altogether. Really some of the highest concepts of deity. And it's hard to get into these spheres unless you really work on like meditations and you start working with the tree of life, you know, ritual of the pentagram and middle pillar. There's different rituals and different meditational exercises which you have to work on for a while before you're able to get into these higher spheres, and then you're able to contact some of these higher forces. And you really come into as close as you can get really to that ultimate source. So here's Da'at, and that's knowledge. So this is actually the fruit from the tree of knowledge. This represents knowledge. Lucifer actually used to be on the original tree of life before there was a Malkut. Lucifer resided here with the black sun above the mundane sun, or the solar sun, which was Michael. But now that sphere is gone, and it's actually like an invisible sphere. It's a portal or a gateway to universe B, the tree of the Klapoth. I've talked about that a lot on this channel, but I'm not going to get into that in this particular video. But that's important to understand, that death energy. Moving up the tree, we have the Saturnian energy of understanding, the divine dark mother energy, represented by Zophiel, the dark archangel, Zophiel or Zophiel. A lot of Kali type energy here, even that Lilith, that primordial divine feminine energy, but it's going to be of the positive polarity, of course, on the tree of life. The mother understands, you know, the father he might have wisdom, but only the mother really understands. It's the compassion and the love of the mother, which is really like the true magic behind all of existence, because everything comes from that dark feminine void. And it's the love of the mother, as we talked about in a couple videos ago, like in the Harry Potter series. It's Harry Potter's mother and his mother who ended up saving him from Voldemort's dark magic. That's a very, very deep concepts and understandings of magic within the divine feminine current. Then you move over to Hokmah, which is that outgoing energy, you know, represented by the wand, and Archangel Raziel, of course. So it's the divine masculine, where there is no separation. My father and I are one. So you're starting to really get into unifying principles in here. It's the top of that pillar of mercy, where everything kind of molds together. Think of this as more the pillar of separation, or the negative polarity. It's not evil, it's not bad, it's not really dark. They just perform their functions. Then this being the positive polarity, the outgoing energy. The male energy is very dynamic, outgoing, straightforward, linear. Then when you take these two divine forces, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and unify them, then you get Kether, which is the unity of like all consciousness as far as this matrix is concerned. And then you have higher layers of existence outside of the tree of life, the Ein Sof, or the Ein Sof and the Ein, which we've talked about plenty on this channel, but I can always cover more on them if need be. And also there's 32 degrees in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So if you take the 10 spheres or the 10 Sephiroth and combine it with the 22 letters or channels, I don't really have a lot of knowledge on the paths or the channels and how the tarot plays into all that. That's a little bit more advanced knowledge, which really I should, you know, be studying. That would help me understand the tree of life a lot more. I understand the Sephiroth a lot, but not so much the pathways. So that's something that I could definitely work on myself and understanding. So kind of taking that whole tree of life into account and how it's a journey or a sojourn of the soul, let me talk about a little bit about my own journey in Masonry. I joined Masonry in 2014. I think I became junior deacon of my lodge in 2015. And I went through entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason fairly quickly. And then after you become a master mason, you can become a member of, or you can become an officer of your lodge. So if you want me to cover the symbolism of the entered apprentice, fellowcraft, or master mason, or any of the symbols of those degrees on this channel, I will do that. But just so you know, in my book, I will be going into much more detail on those things. So really get in on the Patreon, especially once I publish like the entered apprentice degree. I'll try to get to that point very soon. I want to kind of work on the book in a linear, progressive fashion. So I'm on the Tree of Life chapter right now, working on that, and I will post that as soon as I'm done editing that and adding more and going through that. So I joined as an officer in the lodge in like 2015, junior deacon, and the junior deacon's role is to kind of be the inner guard to the temple. So you have the Tyler, which actually sits outside the lodge with the sword. Think of the lodge as like your own mind too. So you're guarding against impurities or the things which are not going to serve you or be of your best interest. That would be the Tyler guarding the outer door. The junior deacon guards the inner door of the lodge, in the inside door. And he has a couple roles and duties within the lodge, which are, kind of minor, but he does play an important role. His staff has the moon on it, so it's symbolized more by that feminine current, that feminine energy, the lunar energy, which also has correspondence with the Yesod. Then you become senior deacon. The senior deacon actually conducts the candidate around the lodge, does the circumambulations and all of those sorts of things. And his staff has the sun on it, so it's representing more of that solar energy. And I was senior deacon the next year, so it would have been like 2016. From senior deacon, you then progress to, you're supposed to progress to junior warden. So I did the junior warden, sits in the south of the lodge. So depending on which elemental system you're working with, the south is usually fire, but if you're working on the astral level, the south is actually going to be water. Gabriel could be the archangel that is, symbolic officer of the south, if you're going to work with the elements in that way. It is the high 12, so the south corresponds with the sun at its highest during the day, which is noon, of course, when the sun is at its highest. So all of these things are emblematic of the junior deacon, the junior warden. And then you go to the senior warden seat, which is in the west. All of the things correlated with the west, and I often see Archangel Raphael as the spirit which kind of plays over the senior warden. Now, I wasn't senior warden for very long. This would have been like 2018, before the master stepped down at the time. So then I went to the east and was the worshipful master for a couple years, like 2018 to 2020, right in that timeline. And then, of course, the east represents the rising sun. The master is the presiding officer of the lodge, so he runs the meetings. That's where the light comes from, is from the east. So all of these things, these are all things that I talk about in my book in much, much more detail. So that was kind of my journey. And then at some point, it would have been, if we rewind the clock back to like 2017 or 2016, right around that time, that's when I joined Scottish Rite. So it was before I became a worshipful master of my own lodge. And then I started working with some ceremonial magic. Like I learned the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, got the Golden Dawn book, started reading from that. So that's really when like my magical career kind of took off. And I started learning a lot about those sorts of things. I would go to the woods every day. I would meditate pretty much every day, keep a magical journal. Did that for a few years. And then I am just not as active in my practices as I once was. Life has had a lot of blessings sent my way. And met my fiance, and we have a son now, so doing the whole family thing, and been working on this YouTube channel since 2021. I think it was January of 21. So starting to share some of this knowledge, I felt that the Spirit was guiding me to start teaching some of this stuff. So yeah, this is all just a kind of a quick overview of how all of these different aspects have played into my life. And if you want to learn more about my personal journey and how this all plays in together, all of this stuff, I highly recommend, once again, you check out my Patreon, and you can get like 5 chapters already from Freemasonry and ceremonial magic. So it's like 2 hours of listening to audio, somewhere probably right around there. So you're going to get a lot of information from that, which is more, it's my thoughts in a much more condensed and formatted way than watching my videos on YouTube. So like this video, for instance, I didn't take notes on this. I didn't do anything. I just felt compelled to talk about all of these subjects within the scope of this video. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey I've had. I was a musician as well from really the time I got out of high school until about 3 years ago or so. I've done music a lot too, so that's always been a part of my journey, meeting new and interesting people, gigging a lot, playing a lot of shows. So it's really, yeah, it's just all been kind of this magical experience. And now I'm kind of coming into a point where I'm kind of grounding my energies and grounding my life out a little bit more. I'm starting to get more interested in things of the earthly nature, as far as just, you know, trying to manifest some things. So write this book, work on this book, and continue this YouTube channel, and in that way, you know, hopefully bring about that divine understanding and influence into the lives of each and every person that I can come into contact with, or through those of you who are watching my YouTube videos. Hopefully this channel has brought you some understanding, and hopefully you've been inspired by some of the things I've talked about or that I teach on this channel. So yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video as well. I just wanted to talk about the Tree of Life in detail a little bit, talk a little bit about my Masonic journey, summarize it up real quick, and kind of where I'm going, where I've been going in life. And so now my projects are my book, and really just this YouTube channel, and teaching more and more concepts, esoteric ideas, and things get the mind stirring. So there's a lot of mundane stuff in this world. So hopefully, you know, each of us can work as a source of light in this world, as our own sun. Once again, that the dot within the circle, we can be that light that illuminates, you know, helps to illuminate mankind and bring forth a new era of consciousness. So peace and love, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. And until next time, I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Peace and blessings.